Have you ever wondered how the Israel-Palestine conflict began? The roots of this enduring struggle can be traced back to the ancient history of the region, long before the establishment of the modern states we know today as Israel and Palestine. The land, known historically as Canaan, has seen the rise and fall of numerous civilizations and empires over millennia. It has been home to the ancient Hebrews, the Canaanites, the Romans, and the Ottomans, among others. Each of these periods left an indelible mark on the region, shaping its cultural, religious, and political landscape. Now fast forward to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, two significant nationalist movements emerged. On one hand, we have Zionism, a movement advocating for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in response to centuries of persecution. On the other hand, we have Palestinian nationalism, born out of the desire for self-determination and sovereignty in the face of foreign rule. These two movements were set on a collision course, both laying claim to the same land. The situation was further complicated by the British Mandate of Palestine established after World War I. The British, tasked with administering the region, made conflicting promises to both Jews and Arabs, further stoking tensions. The British attempted to balance the aspirations of the Jewish and Palestinian Arab communities, but their efforts often fell short, leading to a series of violent clashes. By the end of the mandate in 1948, the land was a tinderbox of competing nationalisms, religious fervor, and geopolitical interests. In essence, the historical roots of the Israel-Palestine conflict are deeply intertwined with the region's ancient past, the rise of nationalistic movements, and the impact of colonial rule. The stage was set for conflict as two nations sought to assert their right to the same land. A key turning point was the UN's attempt to partition Palestine in 1947. The United Nations, in an effort to resolve growing tensions, proposed a plan to divide Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. This was the UN Partition Plan. The idea was to create a home for both Jews and Arabs, reflecting their historical and emotional ties to the region. Jerusalem, a city sacred to both Jews and Arabs, was to be placed under international administration due to its unique significance. However, the plan was met with mixed reactions. Jewish leaders accepted the proposal, seeing it as a chance to establish a long-sought Jewish state. The Arab nations, on the other hand, rejected the plan. They viewed it as an imposition of Western powers on their lands and saw it as a threat to the rights of the Arab majority living in Palestine. In May 1948, following the expiration of the British Mandate, the Jewish leaders declared the establishment of the State of Israel. This was a monumental moment for Jews worldwide, as it marked the creation of their first independent state in over 2,000 years. However, the creation of Israel was not welcomed by its Arab neighbors. The very next day, armies from Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Lebanon invaded Israel. This marked the beginning of the First Arab-Israeli War, a fierce and bloody conflict. It resulted in an Israeli victory and significant territorial gains for the new state. The establishment of Israel and the subsequent war further deepened the divide between Israelis and Palestinians. These events marked the beginning of a long, complex, and often devastating conflict that continues to this day. The following decades saw a series of wars and conflicts that further defined the Israel-Palestine struggle. The first of these was the Suez Crisis in 1956. This event was triggered by the nationalization of the Suez Canal by Egypt's president, Gamal Abdel Nasser. The conflict saw Israel, Britain, and France launch a military campaign against Egypt, aiming to regain Western control of the canal and remove Nasser from power. However, international pressure, particularly from the United States and the Soviet Union, led to a withdrawal by the three invading countries, leaving the Suez Canal in Egyptian hands. This event significantly boosted Nasser's standing in the Arab world and further inflamed the region's tensions. Fast forward to 1967 and we find the Six-Day War. This conflict began when Israel launched a preemptive strike against Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, following escalating tensions and threats from the Arab states. In a swift and decisive victory, Israel captured significant territories: the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza Strip from Egypt, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. This war altered the geographical and political landscape of the Middle East, with Israel's territorial gains becoming a contentious issue in subsequent peace negotiations. The Yom Kippur War of 1973 saw Egypt and Syria launch a surprise attack on Israel on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Despite initial gains by Egypt and Syria, Israel managed to push back the invading forces and even advanced into enemy territory. The war ended with a ceasefire, but not before it had shaken Israel's sense of security and led to a reassessment of its military preparedness. These wars hardened positions on both sides, making peace seem an elusive goal. The conflict is not only between two nations, but also involves key players and organizations. As we delve deeper into the Israel-Palestine conflict, we must acknowledge the influence of pivotal entities and individuals. On the Israeli side, the government, military, and influential political figures have played crucial roles. Israel's government, defined by its parliamentary system, has seen a range of political ideologies come to power, each shaping the nation's approach to the conflict. Key figures like Benjamin Netanyahu, with his long tenure as prime minister, have left indelible marks on the conflict. Netanyahu's policies, particularly those concerning settlements and Jerusalem, have often been contentious, sparking international debate. The Israeli military, too, has been a significant player, given its central role in maintaining security amidst ongoing tensions. Turning our attention to Palestinian leadership, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, stands out. As the recognized representative of the Palestinian people, the PLO has been at the forefront of the struggle for Palestinian self-determination. Figures like Yasser Arafat and Mahmoud Abbas have left their own imprints on the conflict, navigating the challenging terrain of politics, resistance, and negotiation. But the Israel-Palestine conflict isn't confined within the borders of the two nations. International mediators have been key in attempts to broker peace. The United States, for instance, has often assumed the role of mediator, while the United Nations has sought to uphold international law and human rights. Regional powers, too, have had their stakes in the conflict, with countries like Jordan and Egypt directly involved in past wars and peace treaties. All these actors, each with their own interests and objectives, have significantly shaped the course of the conflict. The interplay between local, regional, and international dynamics continues to define the contours of the Israel-Palestine conflict, making it a complex web of relationships and rivalries. Understanding these key players and organizations is an essential step towards comprehending this intricate and enduring conflict. These actors, each with their own interests and objectives, have significantly shaped the course of the conflict. In the midst of ongoing conflict, there have been attempts to forge peace. Arguably, the most significant of these efforts was the Oslo Accords. Initiated in the early 90s, these agreements were the product of secret negotiations held in Norway between the State of Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO. The Oslo Accords were unique in that they marked the first direct face-to-face agreement between Israel and the PLO. They also laid the groundwork for a peace process with the aim of resolving the Israel-Palestine conflict within a 5-year period. The agreements established a framework for the Palestinians to govern themselves in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. The intention was to build trust between the two parties and work towards the eventual establishment of a two-state solution. However, despite the promise of the Oslo Accords, the peace process they initiated faced numerous challenges. The agreements were met with opposition from both Israelis and Palestinians, who felt their interests were not adequately represented. Furthermore, the process was marred by continued outbreaks of violence. The assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, a key figure in the Oslo Accords, was a significant setback. The subsequent political shifts in Israel and escalating tensions made it increasingly difficult to maintain momentum towards peace. The Oslo Accords did manage to change the landscape of the Israel-Palestine conflict. They brought about mutual recognition between Israel and the PLO and led to the establishment of the Palestinian Authority. However, the fundamental issues at the heart of the conflict, such as borders, settlements, and the status of Jerusalem, remained unresolved. Despite the promise of the Oslo Accords, the path to peace remains fraught with obstacles. The agreements, while significant, highlighted the complexity of the Israel-Palestine conflict and the challenges involved in seeking a lasting resolution. Today, the conflict continues to be marked by contentious issues. Let's delve into some of these, starting with Israeli settlements. In the West Bank, the construction and expansion of Israeli settlements is a major point of contention. These settlements, built on land that Palestinians claim for a future state, are viewed as illegal under international law. Yet they continue to grow, with their existence posing significant challenges to the peace process. Moving on to the Gaza Strip, an area heavily affected by the conflict. It's a small piece of land, home to nearly 2 million Palestinians. Here, the Islamist group Hamas holds sway, despite facing opposition from both Israel and rival Palestinian factions. The Gaza Strip has seen multiple conflicts, with Israel imposing a blockade that has impacted every facet of life, from the economy to healthcare, and has led to international condemnation. Lastly, we turn to Jerusalem, a city of immense significance to both Israelis and Palestinians, and indeed to the world. As the spiritual nexus for Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, its status is fiercely contested. For Israelis, it is their undivided capital. For Palestinians, East Jerusalem is the capital of their future state. The city's holy sites, such as the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, also known as the Temple Mount, are especially contentious, with alterations to the status quo sparking tensions. Recent political developments, such as the return of Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's most right-wing prime minister, have further stirred the pot. Netanyahu and his potential alliances with ultra-nationalist figures have raised concerns about increased hostility towards Palestinians and more extreme measures. These developments have been met with apprehension, particularly from neighboring Jordan, which has been the custodian of Jerusalem's holy sites since 1924, and sees itself as the guarantor of the religious rights of Muslims and Christians in the city. These issues continue to fuel the conflict, making resolution complex and challenging. Beyond the political and territorial disputes, the conflict has had a profound humanitarian impact. At the heart of the humanitarian crisis are the Palestinian refugees, individuals and families displaced from their homes and communities. Their situation is one steeped in uncertainty, as many live in temporary dwellings, often in overcrowded refugee camps with limited access to basic necessities. They yearn for a homeland, a place where they can lead lives of dignity and purpose. The right of return, a topic of much debate, hangs in the balance, adding another layer of complexity to an already intricate issue. The conflict has also seen its fair share of human rights violations, with allegations directed towards both sides. Reports of excessive use of force, unlawful killings, and the detention of minors have marred the region. The blockade of the Gaza Strip has resulted in a humanitarian crisis, with shortages of food, clean water, electricity, and medical care. These conditions have led to a significant deterioration in the quality of life for many Palestinians, pushing them further into poverty and despair. On the other side, Israelis live under the constant threat of rocket attacks, bombings, and other acts of violence. The fear and anxiety that come with living in such circumstances cannot be understated. The right to security, a fundamental human right, is often compromised. Human rights concerns extend beyond physical safety. The construction of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, considered illegal under international law, has led to displacement, loss of income, restricted access to resources, and a host of other issues for Palestinians. On the other hand, Israel contends with international criticism, diplomatic isolation, and threats to its legitimacy. The human cost of the conflict underscores the urgent need for a just and lasting solution. It is a reminder that while land and politics are at the center of the conflict, it is the people, their rights, their lives, and their futures that are most affected. The pursuit of peace, therefore, must not only be a quest for political resolution, but also a journey towards justice, dignity, and shared prosperity. Despite the long-standing conflict, there are potential pathways to peace. These paths are not easy, nor are they straightforward. They require an unwavering commitment to dialogue, mutual respect, and the pursuit of justice. Let's consider some of the potential solutions that have been proposed over the years. The most commonly discussed is the two-state solution, an independent state of Israel and an independent state of Palestine living side by side in peace. This concept has been the cornerstone of many peace initiatives, including the Oslo Accords. However, the road to achieving this solution is fraught with obstacles, including the contentious issues of borders, the status of Jerusalem, and the rights of Palestinian refugees. Another proposed solution is the one-state solution, where all individuals, irrespective of their ethnic or religious identity, would live as equal citizens within a single unified state. This proposal, however, raises concerns about the preservation of the Jewish character of Israel and the potential for further conflict if power imbalances persist. The solutions are diverse, but they all require a common element: mutual recognition. Both Israelis and Palestinians must acknowledge each other's legitimate rights and aspirations. For Israelis, this means recognizing the Palestinians' right to self-determination and statehood. For Palestinians, it means recognizing Israel's right to exist in peace and security. Furthermore, any path to peace must prioritize respect for human rights. This includes the cessation of violence, the end of occupation, and the resolution of the refugee issue. Both sides must commit to upholding international law and ensuring the dignity and safety of all individuals. Beyond these political solutions, there's a need for societal transformation. Peace-building initiatives that foster understanding, empathy, and collaboration between Israelis and Palestinians are crucial. These grassroots efforts, often overlooked, can play a significant role in healing the wounds of the past and building the foundation of a peaceful future. While the path to peace is complex, it is not unattainable. It requires commitment, courage, and compromise from all parties. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex tapestry woven with threads of history, politics, and human suffering. As we've explored, this intricate tapestry begins with the historical roots of the conflict, where various civilizations and empires left their indelible marks on the region. The emergence of Zionism and Palestinian nationalism in the late 19th and early 20th centuries further complicated the landscape, as did the role of the British Mandate in shaping the conflict. The 1947 UN partition plan marked a significant turning point, proposing a division of Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, leading to the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. This sparked the First Arab-Israeli War, setting the stage for a series of wars and conflicts that have come to define the Israel-Palestine struggle. Key players and organizations, from Israel's government and military to Palestinian leaders and international mediators, have all had critical roles in shaping the conflict. The Oslo Accords, a significant attempt at peace, initiated a peace process that has faced numerous challenges and setbacks. Contemporary issues, including Israeli settlements in the West Bank, the situation in the Gaza Strip, and the contested status of Jerusalem, continue to fuel the conflict. Humanitarian concerns, such as the displacement of Palestinian refugees and human rights violations, add another layer of complexity. Yet, despite the long-standing conflict and the hurdles that lie ahead, potential pathways to peace persist. These pathways may be fraught with difficulties, but they represent hope for a resolution that respects the rights, security, and aspirations of both Israelis and Palestinians. Understanding the conflict in its full complexity is the first step towards fostering dialogue, empathy, and ultimately peace.